So first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining the session. Yeah, especially those of you that join right now. We had a very short introduction previously, but well, not intending to repeat something about my experience, just to let you know, yeah, a few words to be polite, to introduce myself. My name is George. I started my career in IT as a university teacher, and I'm delivering training and consultancy program for especially for cybersecurity specialists as a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional for Enterprise Security, and I'm delivering for EC Council a lot of trainings. Maybe some of you had the opportunity to attend my online session or on-site sessions, because I'm delivering ethical hacking, forensic investigator, licensed penetration tester, chief information security officer, network defender, basically all trainings in the large portfolio of cybersecurity trainings provided by EC Council. Well, something about our conversation topics for today. Well, we have an ambitious plan, yeah, to cover some technical, just in half an hour, to cover some technical aspects related to denial of service attack, and to understand the evolving techniques that are used by the attackers. That sounds like an invitation for us to improve our knowledge related to this topic. And yeah, we are making some technical introduction related to the techniques and the evolving techniques of hacking as well. We're discussing about some mitigation strategies, avoidance and mitigation strategies, and as well we're focusing about the economics of denial of service attacks. So what could be a reason? Who is behind the denial of service attacks? Because a lot of organizations, they are still confused about the attribution of denial of service attacks. We're discussing a bit about some yeah, the most relevant denial of service attack and their impact about the economics of different organizations. And of course, the main conversation, why I should prepare, how I should prepare better in order to handle denial of service attack that my organization could see. We could see in our organization, how should I be better prepared? What should I do to be better prepared? Yeah, doing my job role of network defender, member of red team, member of blue team, or maybe a purple team in your organization. So I have a screenshot of yeah, popular infographics presenting in real time the attacks which are happening on the world. You were impressed. We are impressed by the amplitude of this attack, so many types and so many targets around the world. Okay, so about the denial, just the basics about denial of service attack. I'm pretty sure everyone in the audience it's familiar with this. Yeah, what is a denial of service attack? Yeah, how it's working. We have a popular scenario here of implementing via a botnet. The attackers are building a full botnet. Well, there are a lot of platforms, software platform, providing you guidance and tools how to build such platform in order to target servers, services, and organizations. So basic categories of denial of service attack vectors. We have three main categories of attacks: volumetric attacks, protocol attacks, and application layer attacks. For volumetric and Smurf attack is not so popular because it's easy to implement protection against such kind of attacks. We have some protocols attacks. Yeah, we are counting the protocol attacks in the magnitude of the attack. It's counted in packets per second, and for volumetric attacks, we're counting in bits per second. Yeah, the size of the attack. And yeah, fragmentation attacks are very popular, started to be very, very popular now. We are discussing about this and different flooding attacks at the protocol level. And application layer attacks as well, targeting especially web applications, are very popular. Requests per second, yeah, it is the size, it's the metric we're using in order to evaluate such attack happening at the application layer. So I'm expecting you to be familiar with those topics, inviting you to review those topics. Again, we have some at EC Council. EC Council is providing very good training, certified network defender and ethical hacking. You could learn the basic related to those attacks. Of course, you have a lot of documentation and examples. You can learn about denial of service and more about denial of service attacks. So the attacks are actually evolving. The techniques, it's evolving. For example, we're seeing very popular attacks, DNS amplification attack. So why DNS to be targeted? Because it's based on UDP. There are some opportunities creating. UDP protocol attacks are creating some good opportunities for the attackers. On the other hand, we're talking about amplification, and how it's working as such amplification. Is not so difficult to realize. The attacker is compromising an authoritative DNS server and publishing a big TXT resource records there, and you're building a botnet, for example, and send instructions to the botnet to start the attack. And the botnets are spoofed, sending DNS requests using a spoofed IP address of the victim machine. Could be a website, for example, which is the most popular scenario. And actually, the carries, a compromised authoritative server, it's sending the carries, large answers, based on this. And actually, the victim is flooded with amplified responses to carries that actually the victim did not initiate, is not aware about this, because the botnet, it was using anytime the spoofed IP address of the victim machine. And the amplification attack, it's surprisingly efficient, to generate only 140 megabytes initial traffic sent to get 10 gigabytes flowed traffic, which is relevant traffic, difficult to be handled by the victim side. And why DNS? Why DNS? Well, there is something about the technical capabilities to do a such amplification attack, to generate a such amplification attacks. And we have to look as well at the impact, because if you're affecting, for example, DNS services, you can create different issues. And not accidentally, DNS services are actually targeted by denial of service attacks. So I saw a report displaying some information about the popular ports and the techniques used by the attackers nowadays for the denial of service attack, DDoS, DDoS attacks. And we're talking about the amplification factor, because the attackers are searching for this, to create an amplification factor. And for DNS, for example, you can see an amplification factor from 28 to 54, which is impressive, by the way. You can amplify the attack traffic generated, but you can see some popular ports. 53, it's UDP for DNS, right? Another popular port, it's 123. Which is NTP protocol. You can see 500 times the amplification, because if you're sending a single carry to an NTP, manipulated carry to an NTP service, it's sending you back the history of the last 600 searches for the NTP host connected to the history, to the historical search and carry solved by the NTP. So the amplification, it's impressive. For this reason, it's #2 in the top. As well, people are targeting for 443 because it's very, very popular. The attackers are targeting 443, which is very, very popular. 1900. Well, this is actually SSDP. SSDP. We still have some SSDP 30, but we still have a lot of devices which are enable SSDP. Yeah, that button, you know, in order to connect automatically the devices to a router and so on, should be not used, should be disabled. Yeah, SSDP you should block at the firewall level. We should block because the impact generated could be quite high. Look, it's number 3 in the effect, yeah, of denial of service attacks. Yeah, you can find SNMP as well as an amplification. 389, which is actually Active Directory or Directory Services protocol, LDAP protocol. Yeah, quite impressive is this one, 11211, which is actually Memcache protocol. The amplification effect, it's surprisingly big. 51,000. It's the largest amplification effect you can see. And just to present you such attack, probably the largest attack we've seen over years, 1.2 terabytes per second. It's huge, yeah. Targeting GitHub in 2 years ago. It was about using Memcache protocols. Shodan is reporting 88,000 open Memcache servers, yeah, open for UDP queries without authentication, because it's caching. It's a free service to cache database content, yeah. And this is a serious issue related to UDP protocols. We should think twice as a developer when still considering to use UDP protocols. Yeah, different options. Yeah, different protocols. Another popular attack, you heard about this, I'm pretty sure, related to this. It was just to tell you something about evolving techniques used by the attackers in order to generate more sophisticated attack. It was actually about Mirai botnet, and you know, Mirai botnet generated large attacks, the largest attacks we've seen in the history. And this one, Dyn attack, it's just one of them. Why targeting a DNS service? Because it's an impact, it's quite high, because Dyn DNS, it was used by PayPal, Spotify, Twitter, Amazon, and so on, and bringing down this DNS provider, it was creating an impact on business of those companies. If public DNS service is not available, basically you cannot have access to any other service. So basically the legitimate users actually cannot do their business. And Mirai botnet, there is a story related to this. Some smart guys, now they were arrested by police, 3 guys in US. And they were making the rules for years in generating such massive denial of service attacks. And it was they did use a very smart technique, because instead of the botnet they were building, it was actually using a lot of IoT devices vulnerable on the internet. And most of them, they build the software, a robot, and searching on internet for vulnerable devices, trying to compromise them. Most of the vulnerable devices were identified as being security cameras, DVR recorders, home routers, and so on, using no authentication or default passwords or very basic passwords. Actually, you know how large it was the dictionary file in order to compromise, including usernames and password, to compromise authentication to those devices in order to take control of them. Just 60 passwords, just including 60 combinations of username and password, and it was enough, to identify sometimes millions of victims, infecting those victims with a Trojan, and making those victims to generate attacks against some sites. And Dyn, it was just one of them. And here is the timeline of this. It was just for 10 minutes or so, but it was generating still a huge impact on so many the business of so many companies. And yeah, just to add a comment here, you know what the guys are doing now? They're fine, I would say, because the judge decided them to avoid jail time after they were arrested, and to do to pay a fine and to do some community hours, each of them. And you know how they are doing community hours? 2,500 hours each of them. They're helping FBI to catch the bad guys. So it's not so. The life of the hackers nowadays is not so difficult, honestly. And yeah, if we're talking about real scenarios, real scenarios of attacks, we can identify very complex attacks. Most of half of the attacks are using different techniques, not just a single one. Combining volumetric attacks with TCP state exhaustion attack and application layer attacks. So there is a combination of such attack to generate more impact on the compromised services. And in order to be efficient in configuring the protection, definitely is not an easy job, because you have to configure protection at all related services they may be attacked, sometimes including the cloud protection strategy. If you are applying, if you have a subscription for the cloud services, so you have to protect as well the communication between your resources in your local environment and the cloud as well. You have to do threat intelligence to identify the latest TTPs used by the attackers, and as well you have to protect in an efficient way your data center against application attacks. So it's not so easy for an organization with limited resources in order to stop or to do mitigation for such attack if targeted by the attackers. And a very efficient strategy may be this one. Mitigating denial of service attack using a cloud-based provider, which is a very common technique nowadays, especially because the cloud providers can use machine learning and artificial intelligence to adapt to the attack pattern. Yeah, try to disrupt the kill chain attack. So cloud providers, they do have large opportunities. We're talking not about the capacity, but we're talking about the resources and the complexity of resources they could allocate in order to provide a better protection. Yeah. About the strategies used by different organizations in order to deal with denial of service attacks. Well, we are seeing some misconceptions, honestly, related to this, and this is definitely bad for the business of those organizations. Yeah, some organizations are saying, okay, I have adequate DDoS protection solutions in place, my firewall, intrusion protection system, and so. But it's just an illusion, because actually a firewall cannot actually handle a smart attack. And if you're attending ethical hacking training, for example, we have a dedicated module how to bypass intrusion detection system, intrusion prevention systems, firewalls, using different techniques, and even targeting those firewalls and intrusion protection systems with targeting the systems with denial of service and making their activity inefficient. So basically you have to forget about you can implement an efficient protection at the intrusion prevention system or firewall. You need sophisticated techniques to implement it at the intrusion detection system level, and not all platforms are providing decent capabilities, honestly. Another misconception is this one: impact does not justify the cost of protection. Well, that depends. I'll provide you some scenarios about the cost of avoidance of mitigation of the remediation, to the business to be back in business when some attacks are creating a huge impact about the business, about the economics of your organization. DDoS, it's all news. I'm more concerned with advanced threats. Yeah, honestly, the DDoS technique are very sophisticated nowadays, and use like a smoke screen in order to hide some other attacks. I'll provide you some examples later to this. And the last misconception, which is honestly, we cannot comment too much about this, will not be attacks. I hope will not be attacks. Well, this is a strange business strategy. I told you I'm delivering Chief Information Security Officer trainings, which is one of my favorite trainings in the EC Council portfolio. And we have plenty of conversations with the people preparing to be Chief Information Security Officer, how to handle the conversation with the management of the organization related to implementing the efficient strategies and denial of service. DDoS, it's one of the strategies definitely any organization should consider. And if you're talking about the impact on the business of those attacks, we can identify the direct cost and the indirect costs. Direct costs, definitely loss of revenue, productivity, and so the cost related to remediation and the cost of legal compliance, and so you have to pay the consultants and so in order to help you. And we are talking about indirect costs, intangible costs, which are sometimes even bigger, honestly, because it's affecting the brand, it's affecting the image of the company. You can face the customer loss situation. There is an opportunity cost for the business, and the indirect cost may be much higher compared. For example, I have some investigation here in a report. I did find some report related to this. For example, for a software company, the indirect costs are actually much higher compared to the much higher. Direct costs are actually for a software company, higher than the indirect costs, because you are building software. Okay, the people, your customers, are evaluating the software, and they are not focusing too much about the tools and platforms you're using for development. But if you're talking about a retail organization, it's a very concurrential market. It's a high competition on it, and definitely, you could see, for example, you can see a higher cost related to indirect costs are higher, about related to the trust, image, and so on of your organization, compared, for example, with data theft situation. Data theft situation, you do have very limited direct cost, and indirect costs are higher. So based on the profile of it, you can identify which costs are higher, direct cost or indirect cost. But definitely that could be a big price to pay if you are targeted by a DDoS attack. I can provide you even more numbers related to DDoS. For example, provided by a recent Kaspersky Lab report. Impact by numbers. And a lot of companies are reporting such attack, and 50% of the DDoS attack lead to noticeable disruption of services, and it's 24 of the attacks lead to services being completely available, which is creating a big impact in the business of the organization. As well, the top targeted sites, public websites, there is an impact of this with customer portal, login area of communication services, And as well about the duration, yeah, you can see attacks which are just 5 minutes, no more, but still creating a business impact or a relevant business impact based on the unavailability of the services. And some attacks are even a full day, 2 days, and so. About the motivation, so there is an interesting conversation about the motivation of denial of service service attacks. Yeah, you can see this infograph. Yes, you can see a lot of situations the attacker are simulated to criminal extortion attempt. And sometimes using the attacks in a lot of situations, this is just a diversion. A denial of service attack is just a diversion to cover compromised data exfiltration. So it's like a decoy situation. So creating a smoke screen in order to hide some other attacks. Yes, and to support my comment here, actually considering the kill chain, you know, the kill chain for cyber attacks. Yeah, you can see at multiple stages denial of service attack. You can see such attacks are the research reconnaissance. You can see such attacks for evasion in order to create opportunities to bypass the firewalls, intrusion detection systems, and intrusion prevention systems, and as well to some as an evasion technique. Denial of service attack, evasion technique when generating some attacks, so completing the mission, acting on objectives when doing this. So it's a combination between such attack, denial of service attacks, and some other attacks. What about attribution? Yeah, this is an interesting topic as well. If you're analyzing this infograph provided by Kaspersky, okay, 20 after the attacks, criminals are seeking to disrupt your operations. Yeah, and criminals in a number of attacks, 18%, criminals are seeking to destruct, while another attack it's taking place, yeah, just a smoke screen or decoy, and criminals seeking to disrupt the services for a ransom. And an important number, relevant number of the attacks are associated to competitors, yeah, generated by the competition, and we'll have I'll tell you something more about this. Political activists, government generated attacks probably, in some situations, and we have some evidence. For example, the attacks related to GitHub, a lot of attacks generated from China, yeah, to GitHub, because GitHub it's hosting some tools used for avoid circumvention of the to make circumvention of the traffic, to do deep packet inspection by Great Firewall. So sometimes attribution, it's not an easy job, because a lot of attacks are not claimed by the attackers, and sometimes it's very difficult to make some attribution. For example, that attack we've seen during the Pyongyang Olympics in South Korea. It was a massive attack, but no one claiming this attack. Probably some political reasons but just speculation, because no one it was claiming. So probably we have to be prepared. I mean, the Japanese guys, they have to be prepared better for the Olympic Games this year. And about the modern attack style, so you know, this is the traditional attack style, building a botnet, and in order to stop such attack in most of the situations, the only efficient technique is that one, to identify the command and control center, which might be hosted in different countries. So we have a replica of this command control center, and sometimes it's difficult to talk with the authorities in different countries. But the most popular situation nowadays, and this is very popular and very dangerous. A lot of attacks are coming from the organizations doing some commercial activity, selling such services, using booters, stresses, DDoS for higher activity. Yeah, popular service because the attackers can advertise, claiming those services as web stress pen testing tool, legitimating and advertising their services actually. And we've seen in the past, some success stories, from the law enforcement agency trying to isolate such attack, blocking, seizing some domains behind. We have an example here, seizing some domains, generating such attack because they were able, FBI, they were able to make the connection to some illegal activities generated by those attack for hire services. And sometimes it's not difficult, not very easy to understand what is behind an attack. Even the darknet, and you're familiar with the darknet environment. The darknet environment is targeted by such attacks, and it's not very clear. Probably, for example, this one we've seen at the end of the last year, probably maybe assimilated to exit scamming of one of the players in the dark net, not necessary to be connected to law enforcement agencies' activities, because some people they suspect the law enforcement agencies to be behind. And we've seen recently such a notification from FBI, because voting process, it's actually targeted by denial of service attacks. It's a big incentive for some organizations. It's not very clear who is behind such attacks, but generating such attack. And actually, we have a project. I've seen this project, and it's very welcome. I want to share you something about this. It's a project actually built by Google and Jigsaw, providing help for some organizations which are not actually in the possession of resources they can use in order to provide a better protection, like human rights organization, election information, some political organization, journalists, and so, and to protect them for free from such attacks. So how to learn more about the evolving techniques of the attackers in order to provide a better protection strategy for your organization. Again, you are a defender, you are working in the red team, in a blue team in organization, in a purple team in organization. You are maybe a CISO in organization, and you should learn to keep your level of knowledge updated to learn more. So EC Council, they do have two very efficient training in order to help you. So one is ethical hacker, and in ethical hacker training, you will have the opportunity to simulate such attack. We are using different tools, plenty of tools, because this training is completely offensive. It's the offensive approach. When using basically the same tools that the real attackers are using, simulate some attack, and you are monitoring the attacks, using different tools to analyze the impact and opportunities. We're discussing about opportunity to handles, how to do penetration testing to see the organization, to evaluate the protection strategy of the organization, including the cloud evaluation, of the denial of service attacks protection. So, and we're practicing very cool labs, practicing in a virtual environment, practicing the attack tools, monitoring the attacks, and learning how to better protect our environment. And as well, in the Certified Network Defender program, we are talking about the techniques to set up the intrusion firewall, intrusion prevention system, intrusion detection system, configuration, management, and monitoring in order to better provide protection, and as member of a blue team. And there are some other trainings, Chief Information Security Officer, I told you, because you have to monitor all this process to implement a security strategy in organization, and as well incident handler, security operation, SOC analyst, for example. Those are the new trainings in the EC Council portfolio that could help you to handle and to provide better protection to your organization for DDoS attacks. And okay, I want to thank you for watching this conversation, watching my presentation. If you do have some questions, we have some time now for questions. You can find me on LinkedIn as well to send some questions. And if you want to learn more about the EC Council certification and training and certification programs, which we are delivering on-site and online, and you can find more at eccouncil.org. So now it's time for questions.